Hi, warm greetings. Today we will be discussing about E Invoicing under GST, which was first introduced from the 1st of October 2020. Let us understand what E Invoicing is. E Invoicing means electronic invoicing. Invoice needs to be prepared on its own accounting system by the dealer, and the details of the said invoice are to be updated on the dedicated E Invoice portal of the government. QR code and invoice reference number generated from E Invoice portal should then be mentioned on the invoice. Now let's understand why E Invoicing was introduced. Mainly to avoid any kind of GST evasion, as E Invoicing will ensure real-time reporting and reading of invoices. Let us look at the dealers to whom E Invoicing would be applicable from the 1st of April 2022. Important thing to note here is that E Invoicing would be determined based on turnover of any financial year from 2017-18 to 2021-22. If the turnover has exceeded 20 crores in any financial year, E Invoicing will become applicable and will continue to remain applicable in subsequent financial years. E Invoicing has been implemented in a phased manner. Let us look at the different phases in which E Invoicing requirement has been made mandatory. Now let us have a look at the list of dealers to whom E Invoicing would not be applicable. Unlike SES units who are not required to comply with E Invoicing rules, SES developers are required to comply. Now let us look at the different transactions to which E Invoicing will apply. Important thing to note here is that E Invoicing is applicable only in case of B2B transactions at present. B2C transactions are not covered. Let us go through the transactions that are not covered under E Invoicing. Let us understand how the E Invoicing process will be carried out. Dealer will prepare invoice as usual on its system and will upload the details through JSON file on the E Invoice portal. The portal will generate invoice reference number and QR code for each invoice, which can be imported in the accounting system, and subsequently invoice can be printed from the system with such QR code and invoice reference number. Important thing to note here is that once E invoice is generated from the E Invoice portal, details of such invoice will be auto-populated on the E Bill portal and GSTR1 return. Now let us understand who will generate the E invoice. E invoice is required to be generated by the supplier only. In case of e-commerce business, E invoice is required to be generated by e-commerce operators. Now what if incorrect details are entered on the E Invoice portal while generating E invoice? In such cases, modification or deletion is not allowed. Only cancellation of E invoice is permitted, that too within 24 hours of generation. E invoice cannot be generated again on the same invoice number. In order to cancel the E invoice, E bill and invoice will have to be cancelled first. Now let us understand the penal consequences of not following E Invoicing provisions. Penalty could be levied of 10,000 rupees per invoice or the tax amount on the invoice, whichever is higher. Further, tax invoice issued to the customer will not be considered as a valid invoice, and accordingly credit could be denied to the customer. Thus, it also becomes important to ensure that when you are purchasing, your supplier generates E invoice if applicable to him, else credit may be denied to your company. Registration on E Invoice portal. There is no need for separate registration on E Invoice portal. User can use login credentials of E Bill system to log in on E Invoice portal. User, if not registered on E Bill portal, can register on the E Invoice portal. You may go through E Invoice portal for more information. Please visit these links. If you have further questions, do reach out to us at gst@caprco.in.